Virtual conferences are more popular now than ever, but you can't just take your live conference and put it onto a video screen. There are things that you need to do to engage people and retain their attention the entire conference. In this video, I'm going to share with you what some of those things that I've discovered are. We are in an era where almost everything has had to go virtual. And even when we're back gathering in person, it's my belief that we'll continue to gather more virtually than ever before. And that's why it's important to understand how to produce, how to create, how to put on a virtual conference in a way that generates the same or better results as an in-person one. It doesn't work to just take your physical live event and translate it over into a virtual one. I know this because I recently had to do this myself. I've been running events and retreats for 13 years, actually longer if you count the times that I did that in my job. But 6 years ago, I shifted to a retreat model. And so I was running these live retreats 6 or so times a year, where I would gather people in a room, deliver an amazing experience, and then offer the invitation to enroll into my one-year program. We had that down to a science. We knew how to deliver the retreat. We were, doing a really good job at that. And I was even teaching that model to other people when the COVID thing happened and blew up the events industry and canceled all the speaking engagements and all the live events. And so we had to pivot quick. It was March 2020, and we had a live retreat coming up. Nobody wanted to come. Obviously, this is right before the lockdown. And I decided, let's take it virtual. Can we do this? Now, I was not convinced. I was thinking that this was a poor stepchild to live events. I thought that we weren't going to have the results, that people weren't going to be engaged. I had a lot of concerns. And so what I did was I put into place different strategies to address each concern. And I'm going to share some of those with you because they worked. So just like in a real conference, your virtual conference has to have quality content. The challenge is that just having a head on the screen for 3 days or however long your conference is not a sustainable idea. That's not going to work very well. So you need to mix it up. One of the things you want to do is look at how can you deliver your content in different formats. Instead of having just a head on a screen talking, can there be activities? Can there be breakout sessions? Can you interrupt and do things that are surprising? One of the things that is a challenge with virtual conferences is that you're competing with that person's life. When you take someone out of their environment and bring them to a conference, they're away from their family, they're away from their friends, from their dog, from whatever distractions they might find. But when you host a conference on a screen and they're at home, they've got people knocking on their door, they've got dogs barking, right? Stuff happening, and they might get pulled back into their lives. So one of the things that you can do when you're planning a virtual conference to make sure that you get engagement is to create guidelines and agreements at the beginning of the conference. Have people agree to keep their camera on the whole time. Have people agree to put a sign on their office door to make sure nobody comes in. Another thing you want to think about is that people get tired physically of sitting down and looking at a screen all day. So having breaks in between to help people get up and down and move around physically is also really helpful to keep that engagement going. You'll want to also think about the platform that you're using. These days, Zoom is kind of the go-to platform for hosting meetings. And if you use Zoom, pay attention to all the bells and whistles and cool stuff that you can do with it. In Zoom, with a pro account or better, you can break people out into private sessions and private groups. At our retreat that I told you about, we even had a lunch session where every single person had to show something in their home to the people that they were having lunch with. So people had a virtual lunch, and then they stood up and they took their camera or their computer or their phone or whatever and went to a place in their house and showed something that they were proud of, maybe a garden that they had built, or a dish that they had cooked, or an animal that they had, or their child, or whatever. And this created a lot more closeness and bonding. And what's interesting is if you think about it, it's one of those things that you can't do at a conference. You can only do it if you do a virtual conference. So think about the ways that a virtual conference is better and can offer unique and new opportunities that you'd never have at a live experience. Another cool thing that I did for our retreat that would be a good thing to do at a virtual conference was I sent care packages ahead of time with costumes. So I sent a care package with stick-on mustaches and funky glasses. These things cost like $20 for 20 on Amazon. So I spent very little money, and then periodically at a break I'd say, now look through your care package and find the mustache and put it on and put your glasses on and let's take a picture. Everybody would go and put their thing on and then come back on, and you could see the gallery view with everybody dressed completely differently, everybody doing funny things. I also sent pom-poms for applause. Since we can't hear when people are applauding on Zoom because everybody's on mute, I bought brightly colored pom-poms so that whenever anybody wanted to applaud, they would shake the pom-poms. You know, and you could see that on the screen. You could, oh, so-and-so's applauding. They really like that. So these are fun ways to make virtual conference much more exciting and engaging. Another really cool thing that you can do that doesn't really work as well in a live venue is to bring in pre-recorded material or bring in videos and things that have been pre-prepared. And another fun thing that I've seen is connection between the pre-prepared and the live. So obviously, if you're going to put all this effort into creating an amazing virtual conference, you also want to get people in the door. So making sure that you get registrations, that you have a good registration platform, and that you've got to be protected against these Zoom bombers that are coming in and crashing these meetings. So having your security in place. Now you might think that because it's virtual, you don't need an event planner, but I beg to differ. I actually think that it's more important to have a virtual person to help you mute people and unmute people and send people into breakouts. Doing a virtual conference, if you're the creator of it, you're the MC or you're the star of it, you don't also want to be the technician of it. So I highly recommend getting some support to run your virtual conference. Now I'm sure there's a whole bunch of things here that I'm missing that I didn't address. So if you have questions about how to run a virtual conference, put them below in the comments and maybe I'll come back and record another video for you someday. If you're interested in hosting conferences and events and monetizing them, then maybe I can help. Visit superstaractivator.com/go to find out more about my programs and services and see if and how I might be able to help you grow and scale your business. See ya.